That was beautiful music team, truly lovely. Oh, as was the meditation and the daily word and all that has brought us to this place right here and right now. And so in this place, this is our second Sunday of Lent. And we embrace the Lenten season as a time of letting go, leading up to Easter, a time of releasing. And we have fun in this process, letting go from our consciousness and representing that process by letting go physically of things we no longer need, things that perhaps others can use in our 40 days of giveaways. And it's fun to release items, freeing our space. We don't want this process in the manifest physical sense to overshadow or distract from the primary intent, and that's letting go in consciousness, freeing our mind of old, worn out, false beliefs, those things we no longer need. We are reminded during this time that Jesus let go of the human ego again and again. The 40 days of Lent traditionally represents the 40 days that Jesus spent in the wilderness. He let go of ego temptations and he taught his disciples to also let go and to set their mind on God. Jesus let go of being concerned with the approval of others. He never seemed to worry about what others might think of him, of how he was, or what he did, or whose company he kept, even when he was faced with outright hostility from the scribes and the Pharisees. He cautioned his disciples to not be upset if they were rejected as they shared the word of God, to let go of concern. So as we move into the week ahead, and we are releasing negativity from our consciousness, let us remember that Jesus let go of his ego and he let go of worrying about how he was perceived by others. So perhaps this week, as you release your items for the 40 days of giveaways, allow yourself to pause for a moment and let those items represent for you letting go of the ego and letting go of worrying about others, about how they perceive you. The beautiful beginning to our Lenten season. And so this morning we are exploring the three faces of God. The three faces of God is a concept that was born from integral approach. It was a framework, or it is a framework for understanding human knowledge and experience that can be applied to many disciplines, from politics and economics to spirituality and art. And this was pioneered by Ken Wilber. The three faces of God was then expanded upon by Reverend Paul Smith in his book, Is Your God Big Enough, Close Enough, You Enough? Jesus and the Three Faces of God. Paul had not published this book yet, the first time that I was introduced to integral approach. And he was a keynote speaker at the Unity Peoples Convention in 2017. And so I got to not only read his articles, but then hear him speak. And I was incredibly inspired by his work. Paul and I connected after the first time I presented this series. I presented it here at Unity of the Keys. And because we do a minister's tithe once a month, the minister's tithe was sent to Reverend Paul, and I told him that we were using his work. He was so impressed that he uploaded to his website, and you can still find it on his website today, those three lessons, that series. And he wrote a little blurb saying, if you want to see how Unity approaches these teachings, watch these videos. Well, Paul passed away earlier this month at the age of 87. And I believe it's truly poetic that this series began in the same month, something that I planned weeks ago before I knew that he was in the care of hospice. It's a lovely tribute to a beautiful soul, a man committed to teaching the wholeness of spirit. The 1, 2, 3 of God, or the three faces of God, basically means that spirit can be approached in first person perspective or second person perspective or third person perspective. The first person, spirit, is the great I am, and we are very familiar with this perspective in unity. This is the God essence within, that inner voice, the divine essence of us as us. And then spirit in the second person is the great thou. This is the intimate friend, close and personal. And this perspective carries a warmth of familiarity, a co-pilot in life, a partner, a confidant. And then spirit in the third person is the great web of life, the great perfection, the allness of God, all that is. Those are third person terms, it. And spirit is indeed the supreme radiant perfection of all manifestation. This third person, this allness of God, we might use the term invocation in our awareness of this aspect, a calling upon, a grandness. And this is the perspective that we are exploring today. This is the perspective that has been the focus of most of mainstream Christianity, God out there. All that is, God at a distance. Well, all three of these perspectives are correct. And not a single tradition, East or West, includes first, second, and third person perspectives of spirit in their approach to how they hold God. Faith traditions tend to focus on one or the other of the three. In unity, we know that we are not limited. Unity is culturally Christian and spiritually inclusive, or spiritually unlimited. We can and we do hold all three perspectives. It is not a matter of either or. It is a matter of and. And I love that three-letter word, and. These 3 Sunday lessons, today with me and next week with Lori, and then back to me. This series of lessons are designed to remind us of our unlimited perspective of the divine and all the avenues and ways of ultimately remembering and holding our kinship, our oneness, our ever-present connection with spirit by whatever name that is preferred. So let's go back in history to unrecorded ancient history. Imagine the first people of the earth. Imagine all that they faced without the benefit or knowledge of science. Nature must have seemed like a separate force, an entity, giving or taking, behaving gently and predictably or erratically, blessing or cursing the people. Nature was a god. So if they lived by the ocean, the sea, with the tides and the waves, smooth or crashing, and abundance of food or lack of food, the sea must have appeared like a true god, powerful beyond their understanding. And if they lived in drier regions, the rains must have appeared like a god, either gentle or flooding, sometimes giving, sometimes withholding, a very fickle God. If they lived in the cooler climates, or if they lived as farmers, the sun must have been seen as life-saving. It was warming them, it was shining upon their crops, giving them light. And the sun wasn't always apparent. Sometimes it hid behind the clouds for days or weeks, or it burned too consistently without relief, burning crops. It was capricious by nature. It was unpredictable. If they lived as hunters, they relied upon the gods to direct them to something to hunt, to provide them with their food. And if game was scarce, they followed the tracks, thanking God for showing them the way. If winter came and they didn't have enough food stored, it was God's way of releasing the sick and the aged, allowing them to die. Sometimes giving, sometimes a cruel and exacting God. And if they live near volcanoes, we can imagine their relationship with God. Temperamental, demanding gifts and offerings, sacrifices and blood. This was a distant God, perhaps not always listening, hopefully not always seeing what was going on. Because of the distance, we might get away with some things not being noticed. But then if something bad happened, God probably did see it, and now we're being punished. Anything that could not be explained was God. It was a God of the gaps in our understanding, the gaps in our knowledge. So this idea of God apart from us, unpredictable and infinitely powerful, is in our DNA. It is prehistoric, before written history. It is ancient. Whereas the science of nature is infantile in our human knowledge compared to the ancient understanding of God. And we're still exploring and understanding how our world around us works. And this is where the gaps get smaller. Less and less falls into that space of mystery or miracle, less and less to attribute to or to blame on God. And this is a good thing. We, us humans, we've progressed in our understanding of God, of spirit, of universal light and love. We've moved beyond the God of our ancient ancestors, the God of nature, the God of the unexplained. We've moved also beyond the God of the Hebrew scriptures, written over a period of 1,000 years by numerous authors, beginning almost 1,500 years before the Common Era, before the appearance of the man we know as Jesus. This concept of God as jealous or vengeful or easily swayed, that was the understanding then. It's our history, but it is not our present understanding. With the ministry of Jesus, we were introduced to a loving God, a God Jesus called Father. And we can see how Jesus spoke in the three perspectives or faces of God. There was the infinite, powerful God. There was the God as Father, friend. And there was innermost God when he said, the Father and I are one. In unity, we can fault by focusing only on the innermost God. It's such a gift. We can hardly believe it when we learn it. I remember my introduction to the teachings of unity, and I reveled in the knowing of this innermost essence, the spirit within me, always present, the essence of goodness, the essence of love. And that is so overwhelming for us and so life-changing for us that we can focus only on the innermost God. I've been guilty of selectively choosing music and meditation and lessons to convey this important, vital perspective of spirit, an approach that opens our hearts to the awareness of that deep, unchangeable connection to the divine, the interwovenness of us all. And if spirit is everywhere present, then God is also out there. Infinite, the web of life, the web of the universe. And we can allow ourselves to be awe-inspired by the allness of God, of all that is, of all that has ever been or ever will be. We don't need to lose the vastness of spirit by accepting and embracing the innermost aspect of the divine. The mountains, the oceans, fields, lakes, rivers, the deserts, the skies, they all become richer when we recognize the presence of the divine. Yes, out there. The pictures from the Hubble telescope of our universe include the presence of all that is, interwoven into every piece of stardust. Studying one of those photos and acknowledging the intelligence of the universe is a humbling and truly beautiful experience. For we know there is no absence of God anywhere. This awareness enriches our experience. It expands our understanding and deepens every aspect of our lives. How beautiful to know that as students of unity, embracing the spirit within, we can also embrace the spirit outside of us. We can reconnect with the joy and the reverence and set aside the fear of our ancestors. We can be Wiccans, wild Wiccans if we choose, celebrating and honoring the seasons and the life cycles of nature. We can be Druids, honoring our relationships with nature, with flora and fauna and the diverse peoples of the world, the divine essence of nature. Taoism, Hinduism, shamanism, all part of the larger perspective. We can enjoy all faith traditions that embrace God in the third person, a God separate and apart from us, knowing deeply that there is more to spirit to embrace. We can embrace all with an A-N-D, a simple three-letter word, one simple word to open our world of spiritual perspective. The wholeness of God, the fullness of spirit. Years ago, when I would attend other faith traditions with friends, I would find myself internally saying, delete, 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 during parts of the service or words of the song or things that would be repeated. And sometimes that might be necessary for our emotional self. But how much more expansive to instead internally say, and. For to say delete is resistance, whereas the word and is acceptance. We remember that what we resist persists. So let us instead expand, add upon. And so as we move into the week ahead, and we are releasing negativity from our consciousness, we remember Jesus let go of his ego. He let go of worrying about how he was perceived by others. And your love work for this week, and mine, is to allocate time to allow your heart and mind to be expansive. Sit at the ocean or the forest, the desert, the mountains, wherever you might be, or look at a photo of one of these beautiful places if you can't go there physically. Your mind studying a photo or even a memory does not know the difference. So go there in your mind, your heart, and emotionally. Breathe in the fullness of breath, the freshness of air. Let your eyes wander upward and outward. Take in the wonder and the beauty of the scenery and let it expand your heart. Hold the vision in your mind of spirit present in what you are seeing, and then bask in that vibration that you have created by doing so. Utter words of gratitude, of appreciation, of great thanksgiving, and bathe in the experience. Embrace fully and with abandon, infinite, everywhere, powerful, loving, and ever-present God out here. Practice the word and so it is. God bless you today.